Yeah, welcome everyone to our panel discussion today. We will discuss how to build better futures, but more specifically, we are going to discuss to what extent NFTs and the metaverse will revolutionize cultural consumption. I will be the moderator for this discussion. We have a fantastic and prestigious lineup of panelists. And so all of you are pioneers, and recognized creative forces in the Web3 space. But before we dive into the meat and the substance of the discussion, I wanted to basically ask you what your definition of the metaverse was, because it feels that the metaverse is so many things to so many different people. So who wants to take a stab at it first? Krista, maybe, do you want to start?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me. My definition of the metaverse is that it is a digital representation of the universe itself. And in fact, it is an extension of the universe, and that human consciousness is now entering into the digital realm and allows us to create a new frontier of human civilization.
Okay, and like a lot of people think, is it a space? Is it somewhere where we go? Or is it beyond that? And it's much more conceptual than that. And it can include also augmented reality and therefore a different experience of physical life as well as digital life. So maybe Jonas, I know that you are exactly on the realm of linking digital and physical through the Crypto Citizens DAO and the way that you guys actually unveil and reveal your NFTs. So maybe do you want to tell us a little bit more about exactly what you do and what you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Olivier. It's great to be here. Great to meet you all. So Bright Moments was created to be a physical gallery to display NFTs. And along the way, we discovered that there's a real opportunity to, in working with art blocks, to show people the moment when their piece mints on, say, art blocks or any other generative platform. And we found that that moment of minting itself is actually an incredibly special and perfect moment to emphasize the physical gallery experience. And so we've really just started to build a sort of storyline around what it means to go into a physical space and to experience the minting moment of receiving an NFT, a generative NFT. And in doing so, we started with allowing for crypto citizens, for people to receive their crypto Venetian in our first Venice gallery. And then that was so successful, we decided to expand it to from 1,000 crypto Venetians to say we're going to do 10,000 crypto citizens across the world, and we're going to choose 10 different cities to do that. So where the metaverse crosses over with the physical world is really where we're exploring that boundary and kind of blurring that boundary and trying to articulate that this conversation is a through line from the physical realm into the sort of metaverse or this kind of universal consciousess realm.
Exactly. And I have to say, I did one of the experiences. I own a Crypto New Yorker number 905, and I did the physical minting and reveal in the gallery in New York, because I live in New York. And I have to say it was a fantastic experience, very different from other purely digital NFT minting type of experiences.
Yeah, well, I'll be happy to talk about it more later. We can talk about the, recently we did a Tyler Hobbs event where people were able to experience the minting of their Tyler Hobbs piece in real life with live jazz and accompaniment. It was really special.
So that's one expression where physical and digital can merge in a very elegant way. Nirmala, do you want to maybe talk to us about what's your vision of the metaverse at the Fabricant, knowing that you guys are basically pioneers in digital fashion? You are both a studio, but you are also your own brand, but your objective is to really allow creators and designers from all horizons to come on the platform and start creating and showing their own designs.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I think for us, the metaverse, we define it as, I think I'm echoing what everyone else has also said, already, but on top of that, it is kind of like this new reality. It's a new reality that people can access, and within that reality, it covers, new economic systems, new protocols, new governance, no censorship. There's all these kind of new ways we can kind of create culture, societies within this space, that kind of borrow from our current realities, but we can hopefully improve them and create new ones. So for us, the metaverse encompasses everything from the ideological, so what you can do ideologically in the space, to the physical representations, as Krista was talking about. It can be represented as this virtual space, so you can interact with things. So working in digital fashion, we really hope to kind of enable all aspects of that economy. So that people can come and they can find a livelihood, they can create, they can connect with other people, but then they can also literally wear those items and, see them and interact with them and play with them. So it's a marketplace. So there's very many levels of it. And I think for us, we're trying to create this new digital only fashion economy, and everyone and everything that's connected to it. So we really look at it as like a new type of reality, I guess.
Yes, exactly. So if I center the discussion back to the overarching question that we are going to discuss and address today, it's really centered about the world that is being built, Web3. And so blockchains and the cryptocurrencies have significantly changed the world's view on money and financial services. But then we see rapid innovation in the metaverse. It's being built at the speed of light. There are announcements almost like every single day with like new innovations and new adoption towards building the metaverse. It has significant potential to remake our working environments, but most importantly, also the way we interact with each other. And so the question today is, where does that leave us regarding our own experience of culture as a whole? And so that's when we are wondering, how the metaverse is going to change our relationship and our experience of culture. And culture can encompass many different sorts of, art, movies, fashion, or entertainment. So Georg, maybe you want to take a stab at it for the first question, like how will the metaverse change our experience of culture?
Sure. I think we will be living in a hybrid world. Part of it takes place in the metaverse, where we are all interconnected at the same time. And it will also overlap to our real life. And let me give you maybe an example. You create a nice chair a nice design object, and you display it in the metaverse, and you will have a lot of people who like that chair. And suddenly you see, okay, I see the potential. Let's make a physical chair out of it. And you can sell it through a metaverse platform, but you can sell it also in a real life shop or something. So I think there will be this kind of interconnections between the virtual life and the real life. I'm actually working now on an exhibition where we are exploring these two ways of exhibiting art. My exhibition is actually called Snow Cash, which refers to the novel Snow Crash. the metaverse was coined by Neil Stephenson. And we will also explore how can you exhibit art nowadays and extend the exhibition space of a real museum into different metaverses, but also into games or into fiction, like novels, etc. So I think, yeah, we're entering probably in one of the most interesting times in the history of art and culture. And yeah, it's moving very fast, and it's going to change every aspect of our life.
And so on this point, I wanted to ask all of you guys the question: do you think that the time we live in, which I agree with you, it's what a time to be alive, and it's extremely exciting to see all this disruption and creativity. Do you think it's going to have its own name in art history, this period, this movement? And if it does, what name do you think it's going to be? Krista?
For me, I think in general, we really have to think about Web3 as a movement of decentralization. The blockchain is allowing us to become sovereign beings in the metaverse, meaning that creative content is no longer something that we mass consume. It is something that we consciously co-create. And as conscious co-creators, brands, artists, any kind of organization, institutions, they now become communities, and the focus is on the community. And then co-creation and fluidity of the identity of the community is a collective, and it respects everyone's input, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the metaverse and the future of culture, we're looking at sovereign beings in Web3, a decentralized movement. And it's a greater movement that's actually bringing forth the values of democracy and free will and sovereignty into the digital age, into the metaverse. Now, mm-hmm. This, I think, is a great movement that's very similar and an extension to democracy itself, right? So philosophically and culturally, we have to think that decentralization and fluidity are the key factors that are affecting the future.
Mm-hmm. And so to this point, you are the founder of Techism, which you coin as a movement. And everybody knows the Mars house and the first metaverse, the house of the metaverse. But in your vision, I know that for you, it doesn't stop there. It's a long-term vision, and that you see it linked both in terms of in the future, what those digital files could become in terms of creating a physical reality and pushing the boundaries. So do you want to maybe update us on what you are working on at the moment and also your vision?
Yeah, just to identify and just to define Techism for people who are not familiar with the philosophical context. I believe that at the leading edge of technological innovation, we need art and humanities, because that is what creates a humane culture. If we allow technocrats and commercialism to dictate our cultural values, then we are living in a giant shopping mall. It's quite empty, right? So I saw that in 2013 and 2014, when I wrote the manifesto, that our cultural landscape was dominated by the technology and the platforms that we're using. Facebook, for example, mm-hmm. the likes, the narcissism, the egocentric cultural values that are proposed through the platform. And everyone, billions of people around the world, all the micro behaviors are dictated by these platforms. And that creates culture, and that's a problem, right? And it has caused mental illness. Widespread mental illness. So for me, I believe that art and humanities really have to be at the forefront and lead, especially the metaverse. because the metaverse is a conceptual place. It's a conceptual ideal. And we need philosophy, we need ethics, we need the values and the wisdom that we've learned over thousands of years of human civilization to guide us and to, to help us build at the foundation for the metaverse. So these are the contexts. I think I forgot your question. I'm sorry, I got carried away.
No, that was so interesting. I also forgot my own question, but it was linked to like physical and digital. But actually, it's very, very interesting what you say, because it's true. We always use the example of saying that the only thing that we see from the very first humans, it's art. It's the paintings or the hand drawings in the caves. So art has been part of humanity, has always been and will always be. It evolves, it's different. Now it's, we have this new era that we live in where it's really the creator economy, and it unleashes so much potential and so much visibility. Now there are new ways of monetization through NFTs and this entire Web3 ecosystem. But the relationship, as you say, to basically society and democracy is also at the center of the question. And so, Jonas, because you created a DAO, which aims at being a decentralized organization where everybody has kind of equal say and decides altogether the decision, like the fate of the entity itself. So it's a new form, I assume, of democracy. So do you want to react to what Krista just said? We are 10 years, 15 years into social media, into the big, massive, centralized media platform. We can Facebook, Instagram, all of that. We can call them media platform. They have invaded our lives. So what's your position towards that, and how do you see the DAOs potentially disrupting all of that? You're on mute. Sorry, we have to. Yeah.
So yeah, to build off of what Krista said, and she identified, decentralization and fluidity as kind of these core pillars of this massive shift that's happening, and what DAOs enable to add to that would be transparency of governance, transparency of economics, transparency of kind of social engineering that's happening. I'm in so many conversations with just incredible artists and creators and community builders about how they can refactor their entire community and business as a DAO. So I'm working with film festival, I'm working with an author, I'm working with an artist. It's like just about every individual that has tuned into this space is feeling some sort of resonance of opportunity and potential to build a new type of community where the social and the economic are kind of woven together in a new way, where each person, irregardless of what organization they're kind of working for, can be part of a decentralized idea, where everybody is contributing to the evolution of that idea. So with Bright Moments, it was very much a natural fit for us. We've recently been migrating from a token-based model to an NFT-based model where each of our 10,000 crypto citizens will be a member of the DAO. And I'm in the process currently of building the governance portal. So this is very much top of mind for me. Yes. We have been working with Snapshot and with Mirror some of these platforms to enable all of the DAO mechanics. And at the same time, it's very exciting. There is also a lot of deeply challenging questions about really how a DAO operates and how to make it truly democratic when you have a liquidity pool of NFTs that can still be purchased by people who have more liquidity and can then influence the direction of a DAO based on their voting power. So we've been exploring different ways, especially right now, because our next city is going to be Berlin, and then after Berlin there's going to be 5 more cities, and we're actually leaving it to the community and to our crypto citizens to decide on what those next cities are going to be. So we were trying to decide if we wanted to make that based on voting power, which is based on how many crypto citizens you own, or if it is just simply you get 1 vote per wallet. So you can't actually influence your own voting power. And then at the same time, we internally, like the Bright Moments team, we're kind of at the whim of the community who's going to decide, are we going to go to Paris or Lisbon or London, or Dublin? And, we're all kind of like wringing our hands. Everybody has this like, oh, I want to go to London. And we're putting together like kind of promotional videos to convince the governing body, like where to vote. So suddenly the people in the DAO, are being lobbyists, right? Like
I was about to say, sounds like lobbyists.
I'm turning into a lobbyist to be like, oh, here's why I think we should go to London instead of Paris. So it's just, it's incredible to see this all unfold in front of us in real time.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I always say that the filter through which people can intellectually go when they try to understand NFTs and Web3 and the metaverse is that ultimately it's exactly the same as what we do in the physical world in terms of the strategy, in terms of the mindset, in terms of the mechanics of certain things. Most likely than not, you will find the exact same replica in the physical world. And so I always think it helps. And so as you just described, I've always loved the idea of a DAO, but the actual application of a DAO is much more challenging than we can expect. And we go back to basically real life questions, how we make decisions as a group, as a collective. And you, Nirmala, I was curious to know on the Fabricant side in digital fashion, where this space is so active, so vibrant. Do you also see the community as being not only the most pivotal part of it, but where do you see this space evolving in the future?
Yeah. No, and actually, before I jump into that, I just want to comment on from what Krista and Jonas have said, because it's really interesting. And, I think like we're kind of, what everyone's saying is we're creating these new systems now with Web3, with these new spaces and technologies. And, you asked before, like, what phase are we in, like, when we look back on this? And it feels to me like we're kind of in this skeuomorphic phase. And I'd love to kind of hear of other people what they think of that, as we kind of transport our heads from the current world into the virtual. You see a lot of like physical spaces and physical real world concepts being replicated into the metaverse. And I think that's one thing that we kind of need to be careful of, like when we recreate these systems, how much are we kind of carrying over the problems of the current world into the new world? How can we really make sure that we're being conscious and changing things? So like, for example, you see like these crazy land grabs in the metaverses right now, you know, where property prices are soaring, and it's kind of like, are we creating a housing shortage in the virtual world that's reflecting our own physical housing shortage, you know, things like that. And so I think it's really interesting. The phase we're in now feels very like we're still just transporting ourselves, like the mental models, into this new space, into this sense of like, actually, we don't need to create this type of scarcity. There could be scarcity in a different way, but that still allows for access. So I think that's something that is going to be a challenge for everyone as we kind of build it. And then, you know, the same thing, taking it back to digital fashion, like there are so many things in the current fashion industry that need to be changed and shaken up. And, you know, people need access, giving people access, but also changing processes. Something we're really excited about and we're going to be trialing soon is creating kind of our concept of fashion guilds, where people can kind of co-create around a theme or a concept. And how do we facilitate that process, right? That's not something we've done before, but co-creation at a different level. And then what does everyone who participated in that guild get out of that? You know, like there isn't like a single entity. There's many like sovereign beings, as Krista said, within a guild. How do we reward those people? How do they participate? So I think for us, it's like right now, it's a huge experiment. I think the goals for us are super clear in terms of like creating this equitable economy for everyone that participates. How we get there is very much like prototyping. And I kind of like this idea of like we're MVPing culture, you know, this new process, and like we're iterating with the community and public. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're kind of pushing in. But to us, it's really a big experiment, but we're trying to be really conscious about it at the same time.
No, totally. And to comment on your earlier point, you just described what we do in my company. We literally just bought for like $1.8 million worth of land in Sandbox. So exclusable, you know, we are an NFT marketplace for luxury brands, but we're also, you know, building in Sandbox and in Decentraland to create all these experiences. So yeah, you just described literally exactly what we are doing, and the price sensitivity, price soaring in those virtual lands, in those virtual worlds, it's just another realization of or expression of what I said earlier, which I think ultimately you can always go back to basically a physical, like real world mechanics or reality that is being translated. And so then it asks the questions, can it be any difference when we are the ones who have created the physical worlds and now we are creating the digital world, but with the, you know, the software, our own internal software of what we know best, which is the physical world. And so how, especially Georg, I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on, you know, NFTs and the CryptoPunks, because you created the first global exhibit of CryptoPunks in 2018. Okay, did you predict back then what they would become? And also question one and questions two, what is your vision? What's your opinion, your feeling on the current NFT space?
I mean, at the time when we
did
this exhibition 2018, I mean, I don't think we even used the expression NFT, and certainly it was not nobody would have ever thought that this is going to be so relevant and such a big disruption of the art world, and that NFTs would become so expensive. Certainly we had this kind of idea that it's an interesting technology that could be just as interesting as the traditional art world as far as because there's many advantages with NFTs. You don't need to pay all the storage fees. We're talking about the big collectors. You don't need to. Well, so far you didn't have to think about transport and tax issues. So I remember I had a few discussions where we thought, well, actually, I mean, for those people who are buying Andy Warhol's as an investment, it would be probably just as interesting to buy a CryptoPunk. But I thought it was just a thought, Of course, we would have never really believed truly in those thoughts. What was the second question?
I was curious to know, just to bounce off of what Nirmala was saying, the idea that now the punks, when you see the floor, it's almost, it's for an elite. It's almost, it is reserved. It's outpricing so many people. And so we are far away from the ethos of access and decentralization. But it also allows for community building.
Also, you can discuss this also with the virtual land.
Yes.
I seriously question whether this land on all these platforms is going to be as expensive in 5 years, because if we want to have a lot of users of the metaverse, and we are creating a 3-dimensional internet, then the same thing will happen as with the previous internet. Everybody will have the chance to create a website for a reasonable price. So the question is, maybe someone will come and offer free land to everyone. So,
yes, no, totally. That's kind of what we are doing. Sorry, just to comment on what you just said. Absolutely, so I was saying we bought land on Sandbox with Exclusible, but right now we're building for free for our partners, because no one knows what the economics of exploiting or developing land is. And so the idea is more to bring people onto the platforms rather than starting to build these economic models on top of it.
The only way that you can fully monetize on any real estate digitally or any metaverse is to create a compelling reason to go. And the only way you can do that is through art. So I believe that if you're looking at brands that are looking to enter the metaverse, especially in the luxury, segment, I think that it's all about figuring out, first of all, tapping into the community, thinking about the community first, and communicating and consciously identifying that as a major foundation of your interaction with the community, and bringing the community, activating it in the metaverse in a meaningful and compelling way that actually adds value to their lives. I believe that the future of human interaction in the metaverse should be value added. It should be enhancing our real lives. It should not be taking away from the real world. It should be enhancing the experiences and the community spirit in the metaverse. And that's what I believe in. And I also believe in a decentralized metaverse. Right now, I believe there is a fork in the road. We have centralization versus decentralization. This is the new Cold War. And Web 2 companies are trying to hold on to the Web 2 financial or economic models. But what they don't understand is that the metaverse is the greatest art project in history. It is a creative endeavor, and it will take everyone's participation to co-create the metaverse. It is the universe, an extension of the universe itself. No one can own the universe. It is co-created. So this is a fundamental difference between the old way and the new way. And of course, I also wanted to add transcendence. The metaverse is a place where you will have experimentation of new social systems, of new experiments that are political, that are economic, that we test and we try in the metaverse. And if they work, they will be mirrored in our real lives. So the metaverse is a wonderful place where we can experiment and present new ideas, where people can actually experience the new ideas, the new lifestyle, the new ideologies, the new concepts, and bring it to the real world.
And so you think that the script will flip, where basically some of those systems or that you describe will be metaverse native and then adopted by the
Yes.
physical world, in real life?
What I think about Burning Man. Burning Man was a social experiment and an artful way of creating community in a desert, creating something out of nothing. It's very similar to what the metaverse is, where people come together with no other agenda but to co-create some incredible magical experiences. And that has actually affected our real world. And in fact, this cultural phenomenon is now sort of taking root into the metaverse. It's really the similar tribe that you're speaking of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about the possibilities of creation and experimentation in the metaverse that will inspire the culture that we will be living on and on and on into the rest of human civilization.
And so what's your timeline for that? Because you have a grand vision for the realization of the metaverse, and everybody's building it. Like, so when you see Facebook being renamed Meta, this morning there was an announcement that Facebook and Instagram will basically also allow for like creation and sale of NFTs. As you said, like Web 2 is going into Web 3 as is expected. So that grand realization, your vision of the metaverse, do you think it's going to take 2, 5, 10 years, 20 years to be realized?
I would say within 3 to 5 years. And it's only a matter of the technology to catch up, because right now, in the 60s, there was the race to space, to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And today, 2022, we are entering the metaverse race. So literally the platforms are still very early. Many are still in stealth mode. Many will be launched next year, but the engineers are, very busy building the platforms that,
Mm-hmm.
that we all need to build upon. Because there are many platforms right now like spatial.io or Wilder World. There are many metaverse platforms that are presenting many benefits, but still, we don't want walled gardens. We want Web3. We want photorealism. Okay, so photorealism obviously is going to be the future, right? So these platforms are being built right now, and many that will launch this year and next year. And it will continue to develop because haptics technology will be introduced into the metaverse. It's all about the hardware that's following the software, right? So it's a very interesting period.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to actually ask about crypto wallets, because it's also becoming, crypto wallets are basically now the connector between us and different websites. I firmly believe that crypto wallets have the ability to become the new CRM program, the new way to engage between, let's say, a brand or an entity and the users or the fans or the clients, two parties connected through crypto wallet with respect of anonymity. And it creates, and the content of the NFT of the wallet becomes the access key to whatever worlds, whatever experiences the owner can be offered by the entity that released the NFT. So I'm curious to ask you all of you, how you perceive the crypto wallet within everything that you do, and do you think it's a game changer? I don't know who wants to take a stab at it.
I could chime in quick here, because we're building these experiences that really rely heavily on the wallet connect in real life. So we have protocol when people come into the gallery. And Olivier, you probably went through some of this. And at this point, it's a little clumsy, right? Because the minting process and we're sending. You come in, you send your token to us, we send BRT back to you, and then you have your minting experience. And so we're aiming to simplify and make that UX very elegant. And it all relies on the wallet. It all relies on that signature and that contract. So for us, the future really does rely on some form of wallet connect in real life. So there's going to be this metaverse kind of art festival in Las Vegas I heard of. For us, it's similar in a way to what we're doing, though we really plan to we're exploring ways to leverage not just your wallet, but really your potentially connect your wallet to like a ultra wideband bracelet or something, so that we're using your wallet and your address to trigger events nearby on screens. So say you could walk up to a screen and it recognizes your signature and it brings up your crypto citizen on that screen. The Berlin experience is really going to be essentially a rave where each of the 1,000 crypto citizens will be part of that rave, and part of that reveal experience will be integrated with the music live. So we're going to be relying very heavily on the wallet. The next crypto citizens, the Berliners, are going to include generative music as well. So nice. The weaving of the metaverse and the physical experience for us is using that wallet as the mechanism to make that happen. So very important for us.
Okay. And you, Georg, on the art collector side, do you see people adopting cryptocurrency and opening crypto wallets more and more? Do you see people going from physical art to digital art more and more? What's your take on that?
Yeah, actually, I was quite surprised how many collectors were open to explore NFTs who had been collecting physical art for many years, and suddenly they started to open up their wallet. I mean you had to give them almost like a course how everything works. But then I have a few clients who spent very serious money on NFTs, and I think probably this year it will be even more. And I mean, I remember when I first time explored how buying NFTs, this whole process with MetaMask, and at the beginning I thought, well, how can you collect just a picture? What is the sense of it? But then I realized it's even more addictive than collecting physical art, and it's so easy to spend it, So it's I think we will see a lot more collectors getting into this market.
I think that we have to think beyond art though for NFTs, especially when you think about the metaverse, because NFTs is a medium, it's a blockchain, it's a permanent immutable ledger of data. So it can be applied for anything. And I think that they are the building blocks for the metaverse too. And when you consider what's possible in the metaverse, medical treatments, education. You're talking about providing services, creating a viable economy of services within the metaverse. I think that this is the opportunity here, and it's beyond art. Art is the first iteration of the technology, the first use case that works. But in the future, we're also going to have, and this is probably very controversial to say, but NFT voting, democracy. Let's go into that too. And DAOs, that will also be governance DAOs. The whole landscape of commerce and economies and education are going to be transformed. And I think DAOs will be the new companies. Like, we're not going to have traditional companies anymore that are incorporated. It's going to be more DAOs and community co-vesting. Whatever time and energy you invest in a community, you are rewarded through a DAO structure or tokenization structure.
So it will disrupt everything. I often say, I agree with you that our lives will become NFTs, because just the sheer factor of the nature of the technology has so many applications that we haven't thought about yet, that we haven't really seen, either because no one has thought about it. There is I think a lot of the limits are purely the imagination. And I see it every day when I talk to brands where there is very limited knowledge on Web3 because it's so early. And so it's all about opening the chakras for them to start connecting the dots about what it means in terms of expressing a new dimension of their creativity. And you probably see it also, Nirmala, on your side at the Fabricant, where it's the metaverse allows, there are no laws of physics, the time doesn't apply, you can do anything you want. But I feel like still in digital fashion, we are, we haven't reached limits beyond, what the replica of what exists in the physical world, and it's just cooler because it moves, it has flames, it's made of water and stuff like that. But I think it's just the beginning. Do you have any type of prediction for like?
No, exactly. No, totally. I agree. And this is it. Like, the team right now going through this process of like, okay, what does it mean to design for the metaverse, right? Like, you don't need stitches in the metaverse to hold a garment together. Like, there's all these concepts that we're kind of used to designing with that don't need to exist in the metaverse. So we're transitioning to that now. And I'm really excited actually to see what it means. And I think too, like, what we'll be designing is programmable fashion, right? So like, this is a jacket, it looks amazing, but when you take it into this space, it has these powers and it can do X in this space, so we can actually program interactions into the garment itself. One thing we're really looking at is the contract, right? Like, getting into the metadata, and how do we make that metadata interoperable so that taking this garment means it can exist in Sandbox and Decentraland and crypto voxels, and it means something in that space. So that's really, the possibilities are really endless. But one thing I just wanted to kind of go back on when you brought up the CRM of the crypto wallet, and I totally agree. Like, the Open DAO, right, is a great example of that. They basically dropped tokens and created a database of people, and can now activate that database with these tokens to interact with different platforms. Like, that's kind of a form of CRM because everything's public. But with crypto wallets, one thing that I think is absolutely something that is critical that needs to change and needs to kind of, I think will really help grow adoption of Web3 is security. I don't know if anyone here has been the victim of a scam or kind of had a wallet compromised, but there's nothing you can do about it right now. And it's like a huge issue. There's just like millions and millions that are lost in crypto crime every day, and no one can do anything. You can literally see your transaction, but you can't do anything. And I think if we think about how do we build this future, I think that's something we need to really think about, is how are we also making it secure and safe for people that are new to it, so they don't fall victim to, just losing a lot of money and a lot of value just because they aren't as educated in that space. So that's something I think, as we kind of grow our system, we're also thinking about how do we onboard people securely and safely into this space to be aware of what to look out for until there are more protocols in place.
Can I just add, Nirmala, I'm actually happy that you're on the panel, also because I'm also part of the collaboration with Fabricant and their fantastic new project where we're basically decentralizing the fashion creation process, where I create the fashion, the artwork, the garment, and then there are other designers that participate in the putting the fashion together, but which is fantastic, and I love this project. Great. But what I want to mention is that once Apple launches the AR glasses, and once they come onto the market, that is when the world will change. They already changed the world with the smartphone, and the glasses are the next step. Fashion after the glasses is going to be a huge industry, and it's all going to be this interactive interface where we're all wearing glasses and we're all at dinner, and we are all wearing digital overlays over what we are wearing in real life. But the enhancement and the accoutrement, right, of everything around us, whether it's fashion or jewelry or poetry or interiors or exteriors, architecture, design, everything can be overlaid with experiences that inspire. So this is truly the greatest art renaissance that's coming. It's a tsunami.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I'm a firm believer in augmented reality as a beautiful, elegant way to merge a physical experience, which brings us outdoor to experience the world. And we have these layers of digital on top of that enrich the experience. There's a video on YouTube about someone running in Brooklyn with the spectacles by Snapchat, with digital experience by Nike. And it's really cool. Like, it's really amazing. So I totally agree with you. To your point, I think it's going to be the last question, because we're going to run out of time. But the other side, the other aspect of the metaverse, the opposite side, I want to say, of what you just described, like this augmented reality on top of physical world, it's Ready Player One. It's that fully immersive experience of the metaverse where you're fully dressed in gears that gives you that physicality of a purely digital and immersive experience. I'm always very curious to ask, do you think that this vision of Ready Player One will happen and will be one of the main way to experience the metaverse, knowing that each and every single hardware is being developed at the moment and kind of already exists?
I believe it will. It's coming, but I don't think it's going to be presented in that manner. I think that it's a dystopian experience, the Ready Player One, where people are fully immersed in the digital because their lives are so wretched and uninspiring. They gain inspiration in the metaverse. What I think will happen is that instead we will have, because that is representation based on Web 2 and the corporations that are dominating the entire experience of augmented reality and virtual reality. But the metaverse, it will not be that. It will be Web 3, where you will have more freedom of expression, and so you will have more of an enhanced, more artistic, more humane experience that actually brings forth education experiences where people can travel the world, where they can support indigenous communities through interaction and tourism, where they can actually do incredible things around the world that promote sustainability, that promotes redistribution of wealth and equal opportunities. So I think the technology will be there, it's coming, but it's not going to be Ready Player One exactly.
Great. Anyone wants to add anything?
I was just going to say, I agree. I think it will definitely come, and there will be aspects that people can do this fully immersive. They want to get right into it and be a part of it. But I think there'll be many levels that you can kind of engage with the metaverse. And, it's going to be like a spectrum of like deeply engaged, like Ready Player One style, And then there's kind of this lo-fi engagement that might be through tokens and, you know, more basic interactions, but you're still participating as part of a decentralized community. It may not take place in like a 3D space, but you're still part of a network, a decentralized network. So I think there will be a spectrum of interaction. And I hope it is that there is that spectrum, right? Because there's lots of people that still want to engage, like as Krista said, directly with the land and directly with reality, and we should nurture that and encourage that. But yeah, it's just a choice, really.
Great. Jonas, Georg.
I think you know, play to earn is going to be a big thing. I guess that's how, you know, these big companies will keep us being engaged and selling us all their products. So in that sense, I guess we will have some sort of Ready Player One. But I also don't think that it's going to be this dystopian way as it's described in the book and the movie.
Yeah, I think play to earn is a very interesting concept, especially if you think about it in terms of, say, like the Burning Man model, where, you know, playing is basically building, you know, and earning is experiencing. So you, and it's very much like a DAO, where it's like, oh, if you build, then you get to experience, right? And the more you build and the more you do, the richer and more engaged the experience is. And I think there are dystopian aspects to that, but there is also, you know, the experience of my 11-year-old, you know, building in Minecraft and, you know, earning influence and, you know, building worlds there. And, you know, when he comes out of that, it's not this dystopian world, you know, it's like, it's a very, you know, comfortable world. But there's also just something else that's like exciting and you know, creative about going into that world and building.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of gray area there, and this concept of earning, I think, is going to be one of the most challenging things that we're all going to have to go through. Is like, how do you earn? What is the structure? I mean, we grapple with that every day in our DAO. How do you compensate people? How do you, right? Like, what is the measure of value, of contribution, of the, you know, how are we calculating that? You know, and when you're in Burning Man and there's no liquidity, it's just like, great. The more you build, the more fun you're having. Who cares how much you're earning?
That's interesting.
Right? But in the DAO world, it's like, it's similar, but there has to be some aspect of compensation there so you can feed yourself.
Yes, of course. So you see 1 hour of discussion and we still have a lot more questions unanswered, you know, it never ends. But I like what you said. I also have a 6-year-old. She plays too much Roblox for my taste. But ultimately we are building for our children, for them, you know, and so there's a great sense of responsibility in everything that we do. But thank you so much, all of you, for this great insight on this fundamental question of art, culture, and the metaverse and NFTs. It was a great discussion. Wishing you all the best in your endeavors, and see you next time, I guess. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivier.
Thank you very much.
Real pleasure. Great meeting you all.
Here.
Thanks
Thank
very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.